chair needs another cup of coffee. We'll move on to informational items and land use charrettes.
Okay, Sarah Ward, the director of the MPO, is going to come up and talk to you about the land use planning that PSTA has been paying for in partnership with the MPO as part of their long-range transportation plan. But it's exciting to me because it's the first time that PSTA certainly, and it's not so common in the transit industry where the transit operator gets involved in the land use planning, which is really the key to its future. And so, Sarah, take it away.
Yes. Thank you, Brad, and good morning to the board members. Again, I'm Sarah Ward, the interim director of the Pinellas County MPO. And as Brad indicated, the MPO with other partners have been engaged in some actually exciting activities over the last several months and over the last couple of years when we think about the alternatives analysis, not just the MPO and PSTA, but our other partners, including the Pinellas Planning Council, and looking at how we better integrate transportation, land use, and certainly transit being a big component of that. The MPO is required to update its long-range plan by December of 2014. We initiated the plan update activities about a year ago, again with PSTA playing a much greater role in this plan update by actually providing some financial assistance. And the financial assistance is being used to help us engage the community in the area around the alternatives analysis, and specifically as we look at the station areas and potential development around those station areas. So I just want to briefly share with you some of the activities that we've undertaken over the last month or so. The alternatives analysis included 16 stations. Again, reminding you of the alignment. The alignment would connect downtown Clearwater, coming through the greater Gateway area to downtown St. Petersburg. That alignment included a total of 16 stations. We have, over the last several months, utilizing the resources again provided by PSTA and the MPO, looked at station area designs for 8 of those stations. And so you'll see here on the screen, we started in early April, and we concluded the last charrette just a couple of weeks ago on May 10th down in St. Petersburg. You see only 7 listed here in the bullets because we combined the downtown St. Petersburg charrette activities. I want to also emphasize that in addition to the MPO, PSTA, and the Pinellas Planning Council, the partnership also includes local governments along that corridor. So the local governments have been very actively engaged in the planning for the charrettes, engaged in the charrette activities themselves. And as I go forward, I'll also talk about the private sector involvement. But continuing from the AA, we have had a great opportunity through the AA and through this process to engage our local partners in a greater way than we have in the past. So as we began the charrettes, we started with kind of a shout-out activity or open mic. And we asked the participants, and I'll go back and say that for each charrette, we invited 25 attendees, and then they were separated into 5 individual groups in terms of the station area design. But we started with, everyone assembled in an open area, and we asked, what are the things that you like about Pinellas County generally? And we just had them shout out, place it on Post-it notes, and we were able to share that around the room. And so as you see here, a lot of support for the arts and music that we have in our community, certainly the tourism, diversity of the population, our beautiful beaches, some like the very quaint communities that we have in some areas of the county. And again, we just wanted to hear the values from the participants so that as we move forward through the activities, we could consider those values. We then asked them, what are the things that we need to try to connect? What are the areas that we need to transform? So we were looking at activities that we might connect in terms of our retail and employment centers, our arts venues, our downtown areas. And so again, you'll see here some of the common things we heard in terms of values as we looked at the station areas in terms of transformative ideas, as well as areas we want to connect as we go forward. And so what you see here, you see some photos of some of the assembled groups, and I think some of the board members also participated in some of the activities, but as an example, on the lower left hand of your screen, you'll see the rendering that was, one of the renderings that was produced, or the concepts that was produced for the gateway area around Roosevelt Boulevard. You see there, and then you'll see again the assembled participants in the various areas where the charrettes were held. Some of them right here in this boardroom, others at the Tampa Bay Regional Planning Council, and other locations like St. Petersburg Downtown Coliseum. So with regard to the charrette activities themselves, again, after the opening sessions, participants were then separated into 5 groups, and each had an urban planner or a design charrette professional, architects, others at their table to guide the activities, and utilizing those values that had been identified in the early part of the exercise. We asked them to focus on, 5 or 6 core values, and a little bit later I'll show you we also use some visual preferences to give them an idea of what areas might look like. And so we also had the participants vote on things that they would like to see in terms of transit areas and station areas, and so had all of that information at the table as they then looked to design an area around the stations that were identified through the alternatives analysis. This is just another area in terms of another grouping of the photos. The one you see in the center there at top, that was one of the ones that was held here for the Morton Plant area of Clearwater. That was a station that the city of Clearwater decided that it would like to do at Charrette for. There are 2 stations in Clearwater, one in the downtown and one around Morton Plant. So again, you'll see some of the participants that were participating in that station area for Morton Plant. I think Councilman Johnson also participated in that one, or was at least in attendance at that one. And again, you see the many renderings. What we also did at the close of each charrette is we had the participants vote on the designs that they preferred, and so each of the groups did a reporting out, and then they voted on the designs that they thought most preferable. And we'll be able to take that information and apply it as we go forward to the other charrettes. Showing you a larger view of one of the charrettes from downtown St. Petersburg. Downtown St. Petersburg is a little bit different in that there's a larger area in terms of the activities that we want to connect in that area. So if you look at the bottom of your screen there where you see the 2 circles, you see a star identifying, the health facilities down in St. Petersburg, all children's, Bayfront. Also, you have University of South Florida and the jobs base that's to the southern end of the downtown, but also the desire to have connectivity all the way up to about 5th Avenue North, where you have All Children's Hospital. So in the St. Petersburg area, we were not only looking at where we would need to make connections in terms of where we want to connect and the values that would apply there, we were also looking at the alignments and how to get individuals from the various areas of the downtown, at least to the preferred alignment. The alignment identified in the alternatives analysis would utilize First Avenues North and South. But in discussions with the city, we've been talking about looking at some other options. Again, this one shows in this rendering that the individuals still supported use of First Avenues North and South, but they do also show the need or desire to connect the southern end and the northern end of the downtown because of the many uses located there. You also see over to the west again, where we would have, where we currently have Tropicana Field, and where the Rays are playing currently. We've been meeting with them and other stakeholders of late, and so they've identified for us what they would like to see in terms of stationary, those kind of things going forward. This is one of the other renderings from the downtown St. Petersburg charrette. Again, you'll see the dashed lines in the middle representing First Avenue North and South, but also identifiers, not as much detail, but some of the areas of connectivity, again, looking at the southern end of the downtown area and the need to connect at the north end. From the visual preference surveys, these are some of the photos that were voted as the things that individuals would most like to see in station area design. They want to see pedestrian activity, they like the idea of water features, and certainly a lot of green space and landscaping. So again, we showed a total of about, I think, 40 images, and individuals were able to vote on the ones that they liked most and the ones they liked least, and so these were just a selection of the ones that received most votes in the various charrettes that were held. These were images of some of the things that they liked least. The one at the upper right, you'll see it looks a little bit overwhelming in terms of not a lot of green space, looks a bit cavernous in terms of the look and the feel. The one at the lower left, you don't see a lot of pedestrian activity, you don't see the trees and the green space. And again, so these were the ones that were least liked, and so it gives us, again, ideas as we go forward, looking at station area design and the surrounding area, the things that we should focus on based on the input received through these activities. So our next steps would be to refine the winning designs and concepts. We will be developing computer renderings to get a better sense of the look of those images, and then that would be integrated into the MPO scenario planning, but also compiled into an overall final report for use by the PSTA going forward, as well as by the MPO, as we continue to have a dialogue with the community about the alternatives analysis and the land use around those areas. Again, so we see it as something that we'd be able to use in a number of our activities going forward. And with that, I'll take any questions you might have.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? I'm sorry, Brad, did you have something?
Well, no, go ahead.
Mr. Marks?
Thank you very much, sir. Very good presentation. Just curious, it looks like your next steps, you're in the final report aspects of things. When I was looking at the locations of the charrettes, I didn't see any that were North County. And the farthest North County appears to be Clearwater. I'm wondering the selection of the locations. I think it would be a mistake not to have representation of in North County.
Right, again, the focus of the charrettes was the alternatives alignment, the alternatives analysis alignment for the light rail system, and that system is identified to go from downtown Clearwater through the Gated Greatway area into downtown St. Petersburg. So as we go forward, looking at our long-range plan 20 years out, that would be the first phase of Gated Rail that we might implement in the county. That doesn't mean that at some point in the future, we might not look at North County, but this activity was specifically focused on the alignment that has been selected, connecting St. Petersburg Gateway and downtown St. Petersburg Gateway and downtown Clearwater. So you're correct that the furthest north for this activity has been Clearwater. And I perhaps should have said early on that for the MPO's plan update, this was just one piece of the community engagement, community dialogue, so to speak. I can't recall if we presented to this board in the past some of the other engagement activities, but several months ago we did focus groups throughout the county. We did a total of 8 focus groups, and some of those were held in northern Pinellas County. And in those focus groups, we invited individuals to come in and share with us, again, using a facilitated process, the issues, concerns, values, the things that they like in terms of the transportation system, but just the things that they like in terms of Pinellas County generally. So we are using a number of community engagement tools as a part of the plan update. Again, this one was specifically focused on the alternatives analysis, but we are engaging North County, and that is a point taken. Brad and I and Mike Crawford with the Pinellas Planning Council, we've been asked by the ACPT to remember that we need to engage North County as we do some of the meetings in that area with regard to the bus plan and other activities. So certainly we agree with you that we need to engage North County.
Well, I thank you that. Not just specifically on here, but ultimately when the referendum comes up, North County will be voting. So
Right,
we want
right.
to make sure that they feel that they are part of this
Right.
whole process, whether
Right.
it's this or Green Lake Pinellas or anything else. Otherwise, I think you'll be leaving out a large section.
That is a valid point, and we have been getting that feedback, and I should make a point in all of the presentations to indicate this is just one aspect of our engagement, that there are other activities on the way.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Roach. Commissioner Roach?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for the presentation. How did you, if I could just briefly ask, how did you interpret, you know, I have slide up to,
Which one?
this would be the one just before next steps. How did you interpret that lower right-hand photo? Being selected as one of the least liked visual preferences of rail stop? Is that, well, you, on your visual preference least liked, at a rail charrette, you have a rail. So, I mean, how do you interpret that photo? You understand what I mean?
I'm not quite sure if I do. In terms of when we ask individuals to vote on things that they like and ones they least like, I looked at this one as not being particularly pedestrian friendly. You have the rail line shown there, but it doesn't include any of the other things that had been identified. And I realize this is just a rail line piece, but it doesn't seem to be a very inviting area in terms of pedestrians. You see the fenced off area there, the trees and other features. So I think what we were looking at, and as we interpret the input received through the design charrettes, is that individuals prefer a stationary design that's a little bit more inviting than what you might see in the bottom photo. That's just my take on it, but it was one of the ones that was voted as least liked.
Okay. No, I was just curious. Thank you, that's an answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Long and Commissioner Johnson.
Again, and thank you for that overview of the charrettes. I think I'm correct in stating that that whole corridor that comes off the interstate and starts out being 118th and then turns into Brian, I mean, it's got like 4 different names.
Yes.
Brian Dairy, and
County
then
Road
turns into
296 is one
102nd.
singular name.
That is also another area that has just been booming over the last 2 or 3 years. And as we continue to make improvements to that road, highway, whatever you want to call it, because it goes from 6 lanes down to 4, down to 2, down to 1, I think we would also be remiss, and, you know, backing on Commissioner Mertz's comments, that west central part of the county, along that corridor, you know, when you're talking 20 years into the future, I can't even imagine what that's going to look like just a few years from now. It's just grown up so much, especially that whole area around the daycare, Bardmore complex is huge. So it might be wise, since I happen to know there are a lot of large community organizations and civic groups in that particular area, to try to plan between now and the November 14 referendum, some kind of a charrette or citizen opportunity for input. I know you have a lot of educational things planned, Brad, but don't neglect that area, because I think you're going to see that to be pretty well the second running line. And 20 years from now, they shift from Gateway to that area. We don't know, right? We have to be somewhat flexible, don't we? I'm just asking. I don't know.
Flexibility is a good thing.
Yeah,
Flexibility is a good thing. And you know, Oldsmar, that area,
and there's so many areas that are changing and booming and
this is the first
growing.
phase.
Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Johnson?
Thank you, Sarah, that was great, and thank you for yesterday. She put on a whole program yesterday, too. And Brad did great. For the transportation disadvantaged is what I was speaking to. When the word or term gateway comes up, everyone that I have ever talked to thinks about a shopping center. It has nothing to do with the Carolina area. And so when we're talking about, use the term gateway area, it's a completely different concept. And the people on the west side of our county and the central side, Janet, Seminole, Mills Park, so forth, feel a little bit left out. Just, you know, to be honest, it's, the concept now is all St. Pete, hug the east side, and then take a jog over to Clearwater. So, and that's what's been brought up to me. And in the Charrettes, Commissioner Roach, the ones, it wasn't that Sarah picked those pictures. Out of all of the pictures that were given, those were the ones that the citizens voted on, saying, this is what we like, this is what we don't like. And so they were given a whole bunch of pictures to look at, and these are the ones they chose. That's really sad.
That's why that's how she interpreted that selection.
They interpreted that as not anything close to what they liked. She first gave you the pictures. We like this, we don't like that. So they liked open, modern, clean places to come, and they felt like that was closed in, old, and not clean looking.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you for your comments. And I want to say to the board, I hope I have an opportunity to come back to you over the course of the next several months as I talk about the rest of the MPO's plan. Again, this is just one element of that. Certainly, I appreciate your comments with regard to the western portion of our county, or the southwestern area, Seminole, Largo, Pinellas Park, areas that may not be encompassed by the rail line, but I would like to come back at some point in the future and talk about the other pieces of the plan as well, and things that we would be doing in those communities.
We'd love to have you back soon. Brad, you had some input on this?
Well, yeah, I appreciate the comments made by several of the board members. And you're exactly right, this is one component, and it only covers the rail alignment. It doesn't cover the entire county, but that's why I recommended and we approved doing this through the MPO. There's many members of the MPO on the board here, but it's not just the MPO, it's also the Pinellas Planning Council. And even I, as a transit guy, don't know exactly what they all do, but they are planners. And that the MPO is, as Sarah says, is responsible for planning all of the transportation for the entire county, roads, transit, boats, bikes, whatever. And the Pinellas Planning Council is doing a county-wide land use plan. That even though us folks that are not necessarily planners sometimes think they'll just go on the shelf, they do have an effect. They do create Bryan Dairy Road economic corridors. They do create the Carillon Gateway Employment Center. It takes decades, but for the history of transportation, not just transit, FDOT2 has not been at those meetings, has never been at the meetings. And then we build a highway, and then what happens? Then the land use is affected. Same thing with transit. We run buses up and down the road, and then they don't build sidewalks, or there's nothing there. And so I think it's great that PSTA, and we kind of muscled our way to the table by paying for the thing. But I mean, the room was full of planners, and they do have an effect on our future life, and they affect PSTA down the road. It's very important for PSTA to get involved. I mean, there's a discussion going on, and we know it, about the positives and negatives of density. And there's lots of discussion. It was at the ACPT about whether maybe North County doesn't want density. And maybe this is a way to concentrate future development along this corridor so it doesn't occur in other corridors. But, I mean, I'm sure many people have different opinions about that. Maybe everywhere wants to grow. But it's better for us to be at the table when these decisions are being discussed, because transportation is so affected, and has an effect on it. And that's what this was about. It was about getting the planners, and not just the PPC and MPO, but the cities. You know, the cities really control much of the land use decisions. At St. Petersburg and Largo, Clearwater, Pinellas Park, and the county were all at the table with the developers to talk about how this can shape the future. It was a great process, but it's not the only one.
A lot of conversations happened.
Yes.
Sarah, thank you so much for your presentation. We appreciate it. Let's move on to reports and correspondence.